was all part of the spring bloom. If it was yellow, I guess it was a flower, and that was fine. But now it's just so funny emotionally, since I can recognize it so easily. It no longer represents spring. It just represents a hazard and almost an enemy. You know, when you see it, you go, oh Jesus, and because it means it's spreading. I'm impressed with the strength of Scotch broom. It's just astounding. It screams, I'm going to live. And so eradicating it is going to be a challenge. It's a force of nature. It definitely is. Some days, I mean, I look at what we pull and then I look up the hill. And it is daunting. I mean, what have we really done?
Brooms are one of the higher concern plants in California because it spreads fast. It grows in not only disturbed areas, but undisturbed areas. It can change soil chemistry, it can change fire regimes, and it obviously, because of its dense growing habit, can exclude native plants.
We have over 100,000 acres of French broom across the state. And in Marin County, we have about 750 acres. From a land management agency perspective, it's daunting because we have so much to deal with. The problem does seem bigger than we can handle sometimes.
Is this really worthwhile what we're doing? I mean, who are we kidding by doing this? I mean, there's hundreds of acres of broom on Mount Tam. We're not going to eliminate all the broom in Marin, but we can certainly eliminate it from areas and neighborhoods where people have personal control over some of the property. A functional group with a half dozen people, give or take a few, like the Extractigators, allows you to work on broom at a higher level. We decided if we're going to deal with broom, it can't all be government, it can't be open space. Private people have to take responsibility for small areas in their community.
We have an ecosystem that works rather well together between the redwood forests and the oak woodlands that gives us an enviable biodiversity. If we don't remove that one species, we're going to lose the things that make the place beautiful. Not only beautiful, but its home.
Broom wants to be a monoculture. I mean, it's all set up to be a monoculture. The number of seeds it produces, the way it scatters seeds, the way it changes the soil. It wants to take over and be the only plant around. That's kind of the motivation to get it out of there, because it's getting in the way of native plants that we really would like to see here in the valley. So we got to do battle with the broom.
I don't think I noticed it for a long time until I started working on my own property and realized how much work it was to keep the broom back, keep it back out of my garden because I didn't want it there. And then I began to learn it was so invasive and so much of a fire risk and so difficult to get rid of that it became sort of a thing I took on personally. The Extractigators work on Thursdays. They start at 11:30 and they end at 1:30.
A couple of hours seems to be a sweet spot because you can get a fair amount done in a couple of hours, but it doesn't become onerous. The idea is to come out and do as much as you feel like doing and then leave.
2 hours is sometimes magic. I'm sometimes amazed at how much 4 guys, 5 guys can do. We get several thousand plants in 2 hours, several thousand plants.
I think this whole seed bank is probably going to sprout within a year or two.
Yeah.
And this is an ideal slope for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
They have tenacity. You can chop these plants down, but they'll re-sprout from the same roots. It takes going back over and over again until finally there are no more seeds to start more plants. So diligence.
That second year growth, and then you got these little guys that look like they just came up after the
Yeah.
last rain.
Yeah, I'm only seeing little brumettes. So you've been through here once.
Right in an
Yeah,
area
we've only
where,
been through here once.
Right.
I'm letting all these little tiny plants, they'll go till next year.
What? How tiny are you talking about?
This kind,
Yeah, those ones that are still just the 2-leaf.
yeah. But it's, if we wait till next year, half of them will have shaded the other half out,
These
so
are the
it'll be
ones
easier.
we'll be coming back for.
It keeps coming back. It's persistent. It has a persistent seed bank. So we got to keep coming back, and we got to be persistent, and we got to deplete that seed bank, which is why our commitment is, over a 15-year period.
The challenge with broom is that it's so prolific, and when we go and do vegetation management projects or ground disturbing work in an area, we'll find that within 12 months to 36 months, the broom is just 3 or 4 or 5 times what it was before we even started working in the area.
It's become compulsive for me to yank these things out of the ground. It's like it's like a breath of fresh air, knowing it's coming out of the ground and not going to come back.
We're old people doing this. We're really old. Yeah. The first day I went out, they showed me how to use the weed wrench, and I got a huge broom out, and it was like I held it up over my head, and I have a picture of me just like triumph.
One thing that we know is that the best way to fail is to do nothing at all. And if you're going to find a solution, the way to go about it is to get started.
Broom invaded here, so it started. It can also stop.
After we finish pulling, I have a sense of having really accomplished something important.
There are a lot of folks that would be surprised to know how much of a difference they could make.
We look back and we say, hey, there's a lot more hillside exposed than there used to be. That looks good. And I can't wait to see what comes in there over the next, rainy season, what fills that in.
I'm a broom guy. Another few thousand dead broom would make me feel good.